Have you ever felt like you were slowly going insane in a relationship with someone you care about? When logic stops making sense and you constantly feel guilty, confused, and emotionally exhausted. If this sounds familiar, chances are you've encountered the most insidious weapon in the manipulator's arsenal, the narcissist's covert aggression. This isn't about shouting matches or blatant insults. This is poison being administered drop by drop, day after day, slowly destroying your sense of self from the inside out. In today's video, we're going to rip off the mask and expose the 7 most deceitful and subtle tactics the narcissist uses to secretly destroy you. Watch until the very end, and I promise you'll gain a brand new perspective on your relationships and finally understand what's truly happening. Sound familiar? Let me know by typing yes in the comments right now. Before we dive into the specific tactics, let's quickly define covert or passive aggression and understand why narcissists are the absolute masters of this art. Unlike open conflict, covert aggression is hostility cleverly masked as innocent actions, jokes, or even gestures of care. The narcissist, with their inflated ego and pathological need for control, simply cannot afford to look like the bad guy. It is absolutely vital for them to maintain a facade of perfection. Therefore, they will never attack you head-on. Instead, they opt for guerrilla warfare on your territory, inside your own head. Their goal isn't just to win an argument, it is to totally destabilize you, forcing you to doubt your sanity, your judgment, and even your own memory. This is how they maintain absolute control and keep you dependent on them. Understanding this core mechanism is the crucial first step toward recognizing your enemy and starting to defend yourself. So, tactic number 1, the most sophisticated and arguably the most notorious, is gaslighting. This term gets its name from an old movie where a husband systematically tries to drive his wife insane by convincing her she is losing her grip on reality. In real life, it works exactly the same way. Gaslighting is the systematic denial of your reality. The narcissist will adamantly insist that events you distinctly remember never took place. They will deny their own words, break promises, and completely erase their past actions. The entire point of this tactic is to completely demolish your faith in your own memory and perception. The abuser wants you to stop trusting your own eyes and ears and rely solely on their distorted version of events. This mechanism creates total, crippling dependency. Imagine someone moving all the furniture in your house just a millimeter every single day. When you point it out, they reply, "You imagined that. Everything is exactly where it belongs." Eventually, you stop trusting your own observations and start doubting your sanity. That is precisely how gaslighting operates. Let's break down some classic gaslighting phrases you've almost certainly heard before. Phrases like, "You're just making that up," "That didn't happen, you must have dreamt it," "You're far too sensitive and you're overreacting to everything," or the classic, "I never said that, you must have misunderstood me." These lines are delivered with absolute certainty, often dripping with condescension, as if they were addressing an irrational child. Here's a concrete example. Say you agreed with your narcissistic partner to meet at 7 p.m. 7 o'clock comes and goes. He's a no-show. When you call him at 8, he calmly informs you that the agreed time was 9, insisting you were the one who got the times confused. He will argue this point so convincingly that even though you are 100% certain you are right, you immediately start to doubt yourself. What if I actually did forget? Could I have misheard him? This technique, when applied constantly over both trivial and major issues, slowly but surely erodes the boundaries of your reality, plunging you into a dense fog of self-doubt and confusion. The ultimate goal of gaslighting isn't just winning an argument, it's about establishing absolute control. When you lose trust in yourself, you become incredibly vulnerable. You start desperately searching for external validation. And that support, of course, is the narcissist himself. He positions himself as the only island of stability and sanity in your crazy world. You start thinking, I can't figure anything out. I keep getting confused. Only he knows the right way. At that moment, the trap snaps shut. You become totally dependent on his interpretation of events, his mood, and his approval. He becomes your guide through a reality that he himself deliberately twisted. This is the ultimate form of manipulation, allowing him to do absolutely anything he wants because your own internal coordinate system has been destroyed. You no longer trust your inner compass because you have been successfully convinced that it is broken. The next insidious trick in the narcissist's arsenal is projection. Psychologically, it's a defense mechanism where an individual attributes their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or motives onto someone else. But for the narcissist, it's not a defense mechanism at all. It's a powerful weapon of offense. Put simply, the narcissist accuses you of the very things they are guilty of. They do this to shed all responsibility and shift the heavy burden of guilt squarely onto you. It's as if they extract all their internal toxicity, all their faults and vices, and dump them directly onto you. They remain clean and untainted both in their own eyes and, crucially, in the eyes of others. Visually, you can imagine this as a film projector. Inside the narcissist, the real spinning is filled with their own deficiencies, but they project that film onto the screen, which is you, and show that movie to everyone, including yourself. And tragically, you start believing that the movie is actually about you. The sheer audacity and cynicism of projection are truly staggering. The narcissist who constantly lies will call you a liar and demand absolute, crystal clear honesty from you. The person who is cheating will throw baseless jealousy fits and constantly check your phone. The most selfish person alive will yell that you're the one who only thinks about yourself and disregards their feelings. This tactic is brilliant in its simplicity. First, it instantly shifts the focus away from their own misconduct. Second, it immediately puts you on the defensive. Instead of discussing their behavior, you are forced to constantly defend yourself and prove you are innocent of the ridiculous accusations. This is unbelievably draining. You spend all your energy defending yourself against false claims, while the true culprit calmly watches you suffer, having secured the fresh dose of control and drama they so desperately thrive on. The psychological impact of projection is devastating. When you constantly hear these accusations directed at you, you start to believe them, often against your better judgment. You start asking yourself, maybe I am too selfish? Am I truly giving them reasons to be jealous? The narcissist literally implants their own negative qualities into your consciousness. You begin taking responsibility for their lies, their aggression, and their general irresponsibility. This creates a massive cognitive distortion. You feel like a bad person, perpetually guilty, while the true source of all these problems, your partner, is positioned as the suffering martyr, forced to endure your defects. This allows them not only to completely evade responsibility, but also to extract additional care, sympathy, and resources from you. These are resources you expend trying desperately to fix yourself and apologize for a guilt that doesn't even exist. Now let's discuss the narcissist's chosen method of attack, their so-called humor. Technique number 3 involves sarcasm and snide remarks, often passed off as light-hearted jesting. This is one of the most insidious manifestations of covert aggression because it provides the manipulator with perfect plausible deniability. If you get offended, they can always resort to the classic defense. I was just joking. Can't you take a joke? You have no sense of humor. This phrase instantly invalidates your feelings and paints you as the problem, the hypersensitive person who just needs to relax. In reality, these jokes are carefully calibrated jabs, precision strikes aimed directly at your most vulnerable spots. The narcissist knows your insecurities and weaknesses perfectly, and that is precisely where they land their humorous blow. This is a way to humiliate you, undermine your self-confidence, and save face by staying within the alleged bounds of acceptable behavior. Let's break down some specific examples of this kind of humor. Say you're really proud of a new project at work. When you're with friends, the narcissist might joke, "Oh, she's a big shot now, she'll probably fire all of us soon, ha ha." It sounds like a joke, but it's clearly meant to minimize or dismiss your accomplishment. Or perhaps you bought a new outfit and you already feel a little self-conscious in it. He'll definitely chime in with, "Wow, that's a bold choice. Really sticking it to society, huh?" Again, technically that's not an insult, but the comment is designed specifically to make you feel embarrassed or uncomfortable. But the real kicker is the narcissist's reaction when you try to defend yourself. The moment you say, "I really don't appreciate comments like that," he immediately goes on the offensive, accusing you of being overly sensitive, thin-skinned, and lacking a sense of humor or self-irony. So not only does he insult you, but he also denies you the basic right to feel upset about it. The long-term impact of this kind of toxic humor is horrific. It's not just a passing offense, it's the systematic destruction of your self-esteem. When you are constantly being criticized as a joke, you begin to believe that the criticism is real. You stop trusting your own taste, your judgment, and your capabilities. You start to fear expressing yourself or sharing your joys and successes because you are subconsciously waiting for the next sarcastic joke to ruin the moment. Your life turns into a minefield where any step you take can be ridiculed. You become withdrawn, anxious, and profoundly unsure of yourself. The narcissist achieves their goal. They systematically diminish your significance so that they can look even greater and more infallible against your backdrop. They control you through the sheer terror of being mocked. The fourth tactic the narcissist employs is the chilling, silent treatment. It is crucial to understand that this isn't merely a desire for quiet or a wish to pause an argument. It is an active, deliberate act of psychological abuse. When the narcissist initiates the silence, they don't simply cease conversation. They act as if you are invisible. They might walk right past you, look straight through you, and refuse to answer direct questions. They deliberately exclude you from their world, plunging you into a total informational and emotional vacuum. For humans, as fundamentally social creatures, this kind of ostracism is one of the most severe forms of punishment. It is a powerful instrument of control, designed to make the victim feel worthless, guilty, and utterly helpless. The narcissist knows this perfectly well, using the silence to put you in your place and enforce compliance. So how exactly does this mechanism work? When the narcissist goes silent, he offers no explanation. He leaves you completely alone with your thoughts and anxieties, and immediately you start scrambling to overanalyze your every move, thinking, "What did I do wrong? What did I say that offended him?" You replay the last few days, hours, and even minutes in your head, desperately searching for your mistake. This process is incredibly agonizing. It triggers overwhelming feelings of guilt and profound anxiety. You are left in a state of total uncertainty and complete limbo. The narcissist, meanwhile, is reveling in his power. He sees your suffering, your confusion, and this entirely feeds his ego. He knows that the longer the silence lasts, the deeper your despair becomes, and the greater the concessions you will be willing to make just to stop the torment. He is simply waiting for you to completely break down and crawl back to him, begging for forgiveness. The silent treatment always forces the victim to capitulate. Eventually, the tension becomes unbearable, and you do exactly What the narcissist wanted, you approach them and start apologizing. Often, you don't even know what you're apologizing for, but you are willing to accept any blame just to get them to speak to you again. And at that moment, they might graciously forgive you. This cycle reinforces a toxic pattern in your mind. Their silence is your punishment, and your humiliation and apologies are the only key to their forgiveness. Essentially, they are conditioning you like an animal, teaching you that any expression of your will or disagreement will be instantly met with complete stonewalling and abandonment. You begin to fear voicing your opinion at all, desperate not to provoke the torture of silence ever again. Let's move on to point 5, the art of minimization and veiled insults, often called backhanded compliments. A narcissist cannot simply be happy for you or genuinely admire your success, any achievement you have, any positive quality you possess. It's a direct threat to their ego, so their job is to minimize your significance, but they must do it in a way that prevents you from formally accusing them of outright rudeness. That is precisely what ambiguous compliments are for. These are phrases that sound like praise on the surface, but carry a hidden sting that completely cancels out any positive effect. It's yet another tactic to keep you constantly off balance and ensure your self-esteem never gets too high. It's like they hand you a piece of candy, but when you bite into it, the center is bitter and you're left with nothing but an unpleasant aftertaste. Let's look at some classic examples of these so-called compliments. Say you tell them you passed a really tough exam. The narcissist replies, "Good job, I honestly didn't think you could pull it off." The first part is praise, but the second clearly indicates they never thought you were capable in the first place. Or maybe you've lost weight and are proud of the results. They'll say, "Wow, you look great, almost back to how you used to look." This backhanded remark doesn't just dismiss your current efforts. It strongly suggests you still have a long way to go before you reach perfection. Other options include, "That dress looks wonderful on you, it does such a great job of hiding your flaws," or "Your friends are hilarious, such simple, basic people." Every one of these phrases is a tiny injection of venom. You technically received a compliment, yet somehow you feel worse, not better. And that, of course, is the manipulator's entire purpose. The primary goal of devaluation is maintaining control by destabilizing your self-esteem. A narcissist absolutely cannot tolerate you feeling strong, confident, or self-sufficient, because a person like that has the power to leave him. That's why he is constantly clipping your wings, creating the pervasive feeling that you are inherently not good enough. Your successes are dismissed as luck. Your beauty comes with caveats. Your intelligence is constantly called into question. You are perpetually chasing their complete and unconditional approval that you will never actually receive. The moment you meet one standard, he immediately raises the bar higher or finds something new to nitpick. This forces you to try even harder, investing more and more resources into the relationship, all for the validation of a person who is systematically destroying you. Tactic number 6 is the masterful victim play. Narcissists are brilliant actors, and their favorite role is that of the innocent sufferer, the martyr. They have an astonishing ability to flip any situation on its head, so they ultimately become the victim of circumstances while you are framed as the heartless aggressor. This tactic is used to completely avoid accountability for their behavior and induce massive guilt in you. When you try to hold a narcissist responsible for their words or actions, they won't defend themselves or argue the actual substance of the issue. Instead, they immediately launch into a pity monologue explaining how difficult things are for them, how misunderstood they feel, and how your behavior is only making them suffer more. This is a highly effective manipulation because it directly appeals to your sense of empathy and compassion. Picture this common scenario. The narcissist does something that really hits you hard and violates your boundaries. You finally steel yourself to discuss it calmly and constructively. You start the conversation with that classic phrase, "I felt really hurt when you..." But before you can even finish the sentence, the narcissist immediately cuts you off, their face contorted in a tragic mask. "Oh, here we go. You're accusing me again. I work myself ragged for us. I try so hard, and all you ever see is the negative. After everything I do for you, now you're going to criticize me too?" That's it. Game over. The entire script has flipped. In a matter of seconds, you've gone from the person whose boundaries were violated to the ungrateful tyrant, tearing down the poor, helpless victim. The focus of attention has completely shifted away from their transgression and onto their perceived suffering. Now, they don't owe you an apology. Instead, you're the one who needs to comfort them and reassure them of your love. The consequences of this victim game are devastating for healthy communication. First, you realize that any conversation about problems is completely futile and just leaves you feeling even worse. You stop bringing up important topics, swallowing your resentment just to avoid upsetting your partner again. Conflicts aren't resolved, they simply accumulate, poisoning the entire relationship. Secondly, this dynamic creates a chronic sense of guilt. You begin to believe that you truly are too demanding and ungrateful. You are constantly walking on eggshells, terrified that one careless word might wound their delicate sensibilities. In reality, you are simply becoming an easy target for a manipulator who, through the role of the martyr, expertly shirks all responsibility and forces you to dance to their tune. Finally, the seventh tactic a narcissist uses to dodge accountability is deflection, changing the subject, and the infamous whataboutism. This tool comes out when you have effectively backed the narcissist into a corner with undeniable evidence. It's their ultimate fallback when gaslighting fails and you aren't buying their performance as the victim. At this critical juncture, they deploy a massive smokescreen. Instead of answering your direct question or admitting their wrongdoing, they abruptly change the subject or immediately pivot the blame back onto you, usually by dredging up some unrelated mistake you made years ago. The goal is simple: to disorient you, confuse the issue, and steer the conversation as far away as possible from the topic that makes them uncomfortable. They engineer total chaos so that the original problem simply drowns. It's just like a magic trick. While your eyes are focused on one hand, the other hand is expertly executing the manipulation. Here is what this looks like in practice. You might say, "You promised you'd be home for dinner, but you were 3 hours late again and didn't even call. That really hurt my feelings." That's a clear, concrete accusation. The narcissist won't engage. Their response will be something like, "Oh, but remember last week when you bought the wrong brand of yogurt? That's the real issue here. Or maybe we should talk about your mother, who constantly meddles in our business." See? Your initial complaint has been completely ignored. Instead, you are immediately hit with counter-accusations that have absolutely nothing to do with the situation at hand. You get pulled into a brand new argument, you start defending yourself, and 10 minutes later you can't even remember what started the fight. The narcissist has won again. They didn't admit fault, they didn't apologize, and instead they made you feel guilty about completely different things. So, we've covered the 7 most insidious tactics of narcissistic hidden aggression. Gaslighting, which makes you doubt your own sanity. Projection, where they blame you for their own failures. Biting jokes that actively dismantle your self-esteem. The silent treatment, which is a powerful form of emotional torture. Devaluation and backhanded compliments, playing the victim to instill deep-seated guilt. And finally, stonewalling or evading a direct answer. If this description sounds exactly like your relationship, please know this: it is not your fault. You are not too sensitive, you are not making things up, and you are certainly not to blame. What you are dealing with is a sophisticated and deliberate form of psychological abuse designed specifically to control and subjugate you. The first and most critical step toward healing is simply recognizing the reality of what is truly happening. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. If you found this information helpful, or if it opened your eyes to something important, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future deep dives. Your support genuinely helps us create more content like this. Now, I have a question for you. Which of these tactics have you personally encountered? Or perhaps you know of other tactics that I didn't mention. Please share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be the exact thing someone else needs to realize they are not alone